A group of teachers suing the union that theoretically represents them because they're forced to pay dues, even though they've chosen to opt out of the union. Now, the union, for its part, says that it still negotiates the contract, so the teachers benefit, and they should have to pay for that. Now, this case before the U.S. Supreme Court, and the result could have wide-ranging implications, and certainly as it relates to politics, unions' endorsements, contributions, etc., have impact. Negotiating certainly as an entity rather than individuals. But Christopher, this one, I'm a defender of the unions even when it's not popular. I think people have a short recollection of American history, the role that unions have played. But why should I be forced, if I didn't want to be in the union, to have to pay dues for something that I'm choosing not to be? Why should that be contingent on my employment here? I understand, in this case, the plaintiff's case.
Well, I mean, again, I understand it too, but there's something to be said with having that union making that deal for you and you're getting a benefit from it. If everybody could just opt out, then it's not really going to work.
But why force me to pay for it if I say, you know what, fine, want to negotiate as an entity, but I personally have I have not a good opinion of unions. I don't want to be associated with whatever. No one told me that was contingent on my employment here. I'm choosing not to. It seems that you can argue that there's coercion going on.
Yeah, you can, but again, the benefits are such that you're getting a better contract and they need you in it and they need your money to do it.
Let me give you the tougher question. Let's say you're forcing me to pay dues. Now all of a sudden it comes back to contract negotiation time and you come back and say, no raise. In fact, they'll be cutting our pay by 1 or 2%. That's the best deal we can get. And I say, time out, Doug, my union rep. I'm paying you. I'm not getting anything out of it. I didn't want to pay this in the first place. What gives?
Well, I think if he doesn't pay it, he's not in the union. But I think there's a bigger question here. Why are you having lawsuits like this? What is behind this? Whenever you hear unions being talked about, you're being talked about them, being lazy, they're not doing the right thing, people aren't working, and they're getting paid for it. I question lawsuits like this and this guy that's bringing it. He's getting benefits from it. All these people are getting benefits. Everybody sees the value in collective bargaining. If this is valuable, maybe it should be funded by all teachers or the whole entire state or maybe the federal government. To give people the ability to opt out like this is just a way of trying to piece by piece, tick by tick, click away at the power of unions.
The net consequence, I have a hard time disagreeing with them, right? However, and I know the Koch brothers would love to have this case adjudicated in the form in favor of the plaintiff. However, you do have free choice. You cannot be discriminated against as an applicant for a job based on the color of your skin, your gender, your sexual preference, whatever else, disability, etc. Aren't you in many ways being discriminated against if you're opposed to joining a union? And they can say, in effect, it's contingent on your employment, not the employer, but the work staff you'd be joining?
Yes, you can put it that way, but we just discussed the underbelly of the issue. The ground that is being set forth for the Supreme Court is actually a First Amendment ground. They're challenging the forcing of the union dues on First Amendment grounds because they're saying it's compelled speech. They're actually saying that by forcing me to pay these dues, you are forcing me to embrace the speech, that the positions that my union takes. And that's the ground that is being set forth before the Supreme Court.
In a perverse way.
And it's going to win.
Lobby, the employer was seen that they had a right for free speech, and and in that particular case, now we're talking about from the employee right. It's going to be complicated.
It's going to win.
I think so.
It's going to win because the Supreme Court in 2 prior cases has basically said you can't
to your point,
force
Christopher,
dues.
how do you split the baby going forward? Let's say they do that. And now let's say you've got, the teachers union in New York City says, it's time to negotiate. We got a heck of a lot more leverage if there's tens of thousands of us doing this rather than, me and Joe and Betty over there. If they all gain a benefit out of the final conclusion, how do you ascertain, who gets a piece of it and who doesn't? Are you going to say that certain people don't get raises? if they negotiated as a union and the non-union employees don't get a raise?
Again, I think
how can you do that?
Yeah, you're eviscerating the power of the unions, and unfortunately, that's what's going to happen if this case goes through like that.
Or you're eviscerating the amount of money they can charge, because I have a sense that if you cut the dues in half, you're going to have a lot less complaints.
Oh, no, I think Doug's right. I think what's motivating this isn't about a complaint about the dues payment. I think this is what's motivated is, where is the line between what corporate America is being willing to be pushed towards versus a declining influence as it relates to public unions in this country, and even private unions whatsoever in this country. We have seen union numbers declining generation by generation to a point that we can't recognize it now compared to our father's generation. Anyway, coming up next, former Paterson, New Jersey police officer's lawsuit has made its way all the way to, sound familiar, the Supreme Court. Cop here says he was demoted for supporting a mayoral candidate. City disagrees. It's a First Amendment case that'll be decided down in D.C., and its impact, once again, will be felt way beyond the borders of, in this case, New Jersey.